Vishnu Vishnupad Rashtarashtarashmar Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. Sorry. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Rashtarashtarashmar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtarashtarashmar Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtarashtarashmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatarashatashmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitil Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Shilagokshara Swavaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitil Pravishta Shila Satchitaranda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura Ki Jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jīva Gopala Bhatta Dashagunath Shāra Gosai Prabhu ki jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari, Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai, Namachay Shri Haridas Ṭhākura ki jai, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Sarva Abhishta Bidati Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai, Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai, Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai, Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai, Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yang Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityang Dvaipayano Virahakatara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravobhinedus Tang Sarva Bhutta Hridaya Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Shrinvatang Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridantasto Hyabadrani Vidhunoti Suhritsatam Nashta Prayeshvabadreyo Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavaivasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshai Kshiptastakama Ditaranga Madhe Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams Cakravartī, Ganga Didi. Ganga Mataji, Pradyumna Prabhu. Pradyumna Prabhu, you know how you can contact me. WhatsApp. Indira Mataji, Dandavat Pranams, Madhavi Didi. No, the Vrindaranya Mataji wrote these articles on Bhakti being inherent and bestowed. She does not have a book that I know of, but maybe she'll publish all these articles into a book, 18 articles. Is there a set number? I don't think there's a set number. It's just according to how much progress you make. Haribo Raseshwari Mataji. I don't know what you mean by audio. Can I briefly state? Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. All right, so let's jump into it. I'll just start here. Let's just recap from verse 4. The minds of the Vraj maidens were naturally wrapped in Sri Krishna, and after hearing the flute song, which arouses erotic desire, they were completely stupefied by prem and were pulled to their beloved. Unseen by each other, all the gopis ran to him, their earrings swinging because they were moving so swiftly. As soon as they heard Krishna's flute song, those gopis who were milking the cows abandoned what they were doing and started off. Some gopis were heating milk on the stove and simply left it there, resulting in it boiling over. Others were cooking cracked wheat and left it on the fire. All of them rushed towards the sound. Some gopis were serving the evening meal to their families. Some were giving milk to little children. Some were serving their husbands, and some were taking their supper. They all dropped what they were doing and ran to their beloved Sri Krishna. Some gopis were anointing themselves with kumkum and chandan. Some were cleansing their bodies with herbal paste, and some were applying mascara. Regardless of their condition, they all dashed off. Some of the gopis were so overwhelmed with all-consuming passion that their dresses and ornaments were all in disarray as they rushed towards their beloved Sri Krishna. The husbands, fathers, brothers, and other relatives tried to check the Vraj Sundaris whose hearts had been stolen by Sri Govinda, but because the cowherd maidens were spellbound and had lost their external discrimination, they could not be deterred. Some gopis were stopped by their husbands and other family members and could not get out of their houses. Completely submerged in love for their beloved Sri Krishna, those gopis closed their eyes and meditated on him deeply. And Jīva Gosvāmī says, oh wait, never mind. Okay, anyways, let's just continue on because I don't want to go over time. I'll just read this one paragraph. Some other gopis were deprived of the association of the Nitya-siddha gopis. Thus, their remaining contaminations were not burnt off. They were also married. This is from Śrīla Viśvanātha Ṭhākura. They were also married, like all the other gopis, but they were enjoyed by their husbands and had given birth to children. Later on, they got the company of the Nitya-siddha gopis, by which they developed Purva Rag for Sri Krishna. Thus, their yearning to have direct contact with him was awakened. However, despite having received the mercy of the Nitya-siddha gopis, they were still not fit for Sri Krishna's physical touch because they had contact with their husbands, and consequently, they were not eligible to serve Krishna. Therefore, Yogamaya did not assist them in joining him that night. Yogamaya helped those gopis whose prem had ripened, jata prem, but she did not facilitate these gopis who had relations with their husbands. That is why their husbands could stop them from going to meet with Krishna. Locked in their houses, these gopis underwent intense anguish, regarding their husbands as the greatest enemy of their lives. Indeed, they felt they were bereft of all good fortune and were on the verge of death. On reaching this condition, one ordinarily remembers one's mother and other beloved family members. But these gopis thought only of Sri Krishna, and they meditated on him deeply, perceiving him as the only friend of their soul. This is the purport of this verse, starting with Antargriha. Their husbands stopped them at the doorway of the house, threatening them with sticks in their hands and chastising them. Prevented from going out, they were trapped inside the house. Therefore, it was not possible for them to join Krishna. The gopis then focused their minds fully on him, accepting him as their one and only soulmate. In great lamentation, they called out to him, "Ha ha, praneka bandhu, alas, alas, friend of my life heirs, O ocean of amorous arts in Vrindavan, let me be your beloved life after life. At this last moment, I am unable to behold your beautiful moon-like face, but in my heart I am having your darshan." Closing their eyes, the gopis meditated with intense hankering on Sri Krishna and connected with him in their hearts. And so now we come to the verses. We're only going over verses 10 and 11. It's a very long purport today. So that will be our full reading. Let me just check the comments again. Haribol, Kumini Didi, and Sudevi Didi, Yashoda Didi, Sharmaji, Champak Didi. Haribol, everybody. Dusaha prashtaviraha tivratapa duta shubha dhyana prapta chuta shlesha nirvritya kshina mangala tameva paramatmanam jara buddhyapi sangata jahurguna mayam deham sadhya prakshina bandhana. Those gopis who were not able to meet their beloved were subjected to extreme suffering in the intolerable fire of separation, and thus all their remaining inauspiciousness was burned off. Then, attaining the Achyuta embrace of Sri Achyuta in their meditation, they felt a supreme bliss that wiped away all their material piety. Thus, becoming free from all kinds of auspicious and inauspicious bondage, they met with Paramatma Sri Krishna as their paramour, and instantly gave up their remaining subtle material attachments. Śrīla Śrīdhara Swamipad's Bhavarta Dipika. One second, just. Okay. Then, attaining Paramatma Sri Krishna in their meditation, those gopis gave up their remaining subtle material attachments, guna maya deha. This is explained in these two verses containing the word jahu, they gave up. The following question might arise. How did the gopis' subtle bodies disappear if they did not know that Krishna as the supreme soul? How did their material bodies disappear if they did not know Krishna as the supreme soul? The answer is that attaining Sri Krishna as their paramour caused them to relinquish those bodies. They had no identity of Krishna's full identity, but meeting with him nonetheless destroyed their last mundane attachments, because the efficacy of an object does not depend on one's understanding of its power. For example, if one drinks amrita thinking it to be poison, it still acts as nectar. Similarly, although the gopis met with Sri Krishna as their paramour, the effect of that association still removed their materially tinged subtle bodies. Another question might come. If they were still bound by their prarabdha karma, how did their bodies disappear? The answer is sadhya, meaning that instant the ties of their prarabdha karma were completely destroyed. Prarabdha karma means the karma that's fructified, the karma that you're undergoing in this lifetime. So all that was destroyed. This is the topic discussed in this verse, Dusaha Prishta Viraha, intolerable separation from their beloved. The agony that those gopis underwent being parted from Sri Krishna annihilated all their sins, and they attained Achyuta's tight embrace in their meditation. The supreme bliss that they enjoyed freed them from their bondage caused by material piety. Thus, the suffering they underwent and the subsequent happiness attained from meeting with him in their meditation completely destroyed all karmas, and hence the last vestiges of material qualities disappeared. Srila Jīva Gosvāmī Pad's Vaishnav Toshani. After that, those gopis united instantly with Sri Krishna. This is related in these two verses starting with Dusaha. The first half of this verse explains the result of their enthusiasm, and the second half relays the result of their meditation. In their extreme eagerness, the intolerable separation from their beloved caused an intense burning, which consumed all their inauspiciousness. Attaining happiness in their meditation from the embrace of Sri Achyuta, who never fails to give unending mercy to his devotees, eradicated all kinds of material fortune. Here, the use of the words dusaha, intolerable, and tivra, intense, communicates that ultimate limit of anguish, and the words achyuta, infallible, and nirvritti, finished, indicates the topmost level of happiness. Ashubha, misfortune, connotes, is that how you say that word? Connotes? Anyways. Ashubha, misfortune, connotes the pain they experienced in separation from Sri Krishna before achieving ever ongoing meeting with him. Mangala is the happiness that they enjoyed in associating with Sri Krishna in their trance immediately after undergoing the distress of separation. The mature sadhak receives perfection by feeling sorrow and joy in equal measures in his trance. These gopis had been suffering slowly, but now they experienced happiness and distress simultaneously. That is why the words dhutta, removed, and kṛṣṇa, diminished, are used. With regard to Sri Krishna meeting with those gopis in their own homes, Markandeya has said in Vasana Bhashya, at that very moment, all those gopis attained in their trance the supremely blissful Sri Krishna, who is affectionate to his devotees. The words Ashubha and Mangala in verse 10 cannot possibly mean sin and piety. They do not express the same notion. Sin and piety inevitably dispense the results at every moment. If the gopis were subject to sin, they would never receive spurtis, they would never receive visions of Krishna and their love-filled separation from him. The Padma Puran confirms this. The birth of the Vaishnavas is not the result of any karma. Thus, these gopis' births were not governed by prarabdha karma. Furthermore, in their previous lives as sadhaks, they had passed through the anartha nivritti and were already liberated from the bondage of their karmas. Even so, the words Ashubha and Mangala are defined as sin and piety. This can be understood from the pastime described in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:45-45, in which Sri Bhagavan himself brought the son of his guru, Sandipani Muni, from the abode of Yama. At that time, he mentioned this type of karmic bondage. Hey Yamaraj, you should hand over my guru's son to me, even though he is still undergoing his prarabdha karma. Actually, it is only by the desire of Sri Krishna, who is independent and who likes to perform a variety of pastimes, if one is saved from his past activities or not. It's up to Krishna. Bhagavan does this to increase one's prema for him. Such behavior is a sign of his very attractive rasic nature as a connoisseur of loving exchanges. It should be understood that Sri Krishna performed this pastime with the gopis with the same objective in mind. Therefore, no other explanation can be given in regard to upholding the principle of prarabdha karma. One might ask, did the gopis meet with Sri Krishna in a paramour mood, jara buddhi? The answer is no, it is not like that. They accepted the paramour mood as a stepping stone due to their vehement desire. Paramatma Sri Krishna is the root cause of all existence. He is known as Yadupati and similar designations that indicate that he is the maintainer. So naturally, he is everyone's master. He is the master of the Gopis who accept him with a special mood as their hero in amorous play. Therefore, he is their pati, their husband. This is the meaning here. The purport is that the Vraj Sundaris have unparalleled passion for Sri Krishna, and their paramour mood towards him serves as a stepping stone to increase their passion to the ultimate limit. I don't really like the word passion. I'll have to look that up. Sri Krishna is actually their real husband, even though they have this paramour mood. The name Yadupati means that he is the master of the Yadus because he is their maintainer. As the original Paramatma of every living being, Sri Krishna is the supreme soul, and therefore he is naturally everyone's maintainer and master. Similarly, in a conjugal relationship, he is certainly the Gopi's spouse. Sri Krishna engages in very private, playful affairs with the Vraj Sundaris. Therefore, he is their lover, their Raman. Only the husband can be the Raman, so Sri Krishna is the Gopi's husband. When they performed love play with him, they were also absorbed in this same mood. In other words, they accepted Sri Krishna as their legitimate hero when they met with him. One may argue that the mood of a Raman is One may argue that the mood of a Raman as master or husband is not apparent here. So it is natural to think that the Gopis meet with Sri Krishna in a paramour mood. The response is that even though they see him as their paramour while on their way to meet with him, their greed to unite with him becomes so much stronger than that's interesting. Their greed to unite with him becomes so much stronger that the paramour mood, the jara buddhi, is forgotten. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.6.35 explains how Putana came with evil intentions, planning to kill Krishna. The Putana came to kill baby Krishna by feeding him her breast milk. She was delivered to the spiritual realm. Similarly, a paramour mood, jara buddhi, also indicates a degraded consciousness. When all these gopis met with Bhagavan in deep meditation, their previous bodies disappeared. Concomitantly, the relationship with their husbands was automatically dissolved. How then is it possible for these gopis to be meeting with another partner out of wedlock? A fallen wife who is attached to another man in the presence of the husband is known as an adulteress. But here, the gopis have already relinquished their husbands along with their previous bodies, so they cannot consider Krishna as their paramour. The Vishva Prakash Sanskrit dictionary states that Raman means dear one. According to the Amorous dictionary, Dhava, Priya, Pati, and Bharta are synonyms, meaning master. And Jara and Upapati are synonyms, meaning paramour. It is not appropriate to equate the words Raman, Pati, etc. with Jara, because they actually have opposite meanings. One might inquire why the word Jar, which implies degradation, is used instead of Raman or Pati and other such decent words. We see the example of Putana, who came with a depraved desire to kill Krishna. Here also, the speaker seems to be casting aspersions by using the term parakiya bhav, paramour mood, because the word paramour indicates a sinful relationship. The Trikanda Sheshadi Kosh dictionary and traditional society also hold the same idea. To reconcile this, we must submit that these implications do not apply here. It is true that social etiquette and religious behavior both condemn paramour love. But the Gopis' overwhelming love had driven them beyond these worldly conventions. The speaker uses the term paramour love here to indicate the super excellence of the Gopis' highly developed prem, their anurag. Prem is denoted here as kam because activities based on lust Kam, and Prem appear similar. However, this calm exhibited by the gopis is nothing but a display of pure love, because the sole purpose of these activities in prem is to please the lover. Hence, the Vrajsundari's feelings of committing adultery are exclusively for Krishna's pleasure, and giving delight to Krishna is their natural instinct. Consequently, the apparently contemptible view of their being paramours, jara, is completely invalid, because their jara bhav is to be understood as pure Krishna prem. This indicates that the crest jewel of all the goals of life is to attain that supreme love for Sri Krishna, who is overflowing with prem. All of the gopis' activities are only for Krishna's pleasure. Srimad Bhagavatam relates this later on in 10:31:19. Hey Priya, O dearly beloved, when we hold your lotus feet to our breasts, we do so very gently, because we are afraid that our hard breasts will hurt your soft feet. That's from Gopi Geet. There are many other similar examples of the gopis' prem. Shriman Uddhav also says, Asamaho charanarenu jushamaham syang. I only pray that I may take birth as a creeper, bush, or in the Vrindavan forest, so that I can always be bathed in the dust of the Vraj damsel's lotus feet. It is very difficult to abandon conventional morality and give up one's dear ones. But these Vraj gopis have done so to serve Sri Govinda's lotus feet, which the Shrutis are still seeking till today. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-61. Verse 58 is the same, verse 58 in the same chapter states, the gopis are situated in Mahabhava. The gopis are situated in Rudha Mahabhav for super soul Bhagavan Sri Govinda. Thus, they are the most super excellent of all embodied beings on this earth, for they are the only ones who have achieved the real purpose of life. You can't say most super excellent, right? Isn't that redundant? The greatest sages, sorry guys, I have to get out of this mood. The greatest sages who are afraid of material existence desire this pure love, and so do we as well. Wait. I've got distracted. Okay, so this is probably Shukadeva Goswami speaking. Yes. The greatest sages who are afraid of material existence desire this pure love, and so do we as well. Aho, if one has not developed taste for hearing the ambrosial narrations of Sri Krishna and the gopis, even taking birth as Brahma is useless. Wow. These considerations show that the jara bhav of the gopis cannot be considered as degraded, because it gives the most relishable prem for Sri Krishna, and this is the topmost goal of life. An accompanying fruit of this paramour love is that all those gopis gave up their residual material attachments. As mentioned above, all ties were cut, and the influence of the material elements was withdrawn. This indicates that they attained their fully blossomed transcendental forms. Jara Buddhapi. They indeed went for a rendezvous in a paramour mood. Here the word api, still, establishes the sordidness of Jara Buddhi. So sordidness involving immoral or dishonorable actions and motives, arousing moral distaste and contempt. So still, it establishes, even though they are of a paramour mood. Although Putana came with the intention to kill baby Krishna with her breast smeared with poison, still she was awarded the position of a nursemaid. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:635. Here the word api in the phrase jighamsayapi highlights the evil nature of the desire to kill of Putana. Similarly, the word api in Jara Buddhapi emphasizes the apparent baseness of paramour relations. One may say that coming with the desire to kill and paramour mood are both contemptible. But how can one say that Jara Buddhi is immoral when it is connected with Paramatmanam, that's Supersoul? Supersoul Sri Krishna can never be subject to censure. This can be reconciled in the following way. Putana gave her breast smeared with poison to Hari. The use of the word Hari here indicates that Supersoul who steals the minds of all by his compassion and other wonderful qualities. Therefore, even a cruel-hearted person cannot harbor the desire to kill Sri Krishna, who is full of transcendental qualities. After considering the above, if the desire to kill Krishna or to have a paramour relationship with him does appear in a cruel heart, Bhagavan Sri Krishna himself will take away these unwholesome desires, just as he made Putana give up her intention to kill and removed the impropriety of the Gopis' paramour love also. The reason for this is that he is directly the Supersoul, or Hari, and he is causelessly merciful. Krishna himself will therefore destroy unseemly tendencies in one who has corrupt intentions, and that is what he has done here. Bhagavan saw Putana's giving poisoned breast milk as an envious act, but he nevertheless accepted it as a semblance of bhakti. Therefore, he granted her the position of a nursemaid. The Gopis, on the other hand, were supremely devoted to him and were suffering intolerable separation from their beloved, dusaha prishta viraha. Why then would he not accept them as his beloveds and give them happiness by meeting with them in their hearts? Surely he would do that. These gopis' actual meeting with Sri Krishna took place in the eternal realm of Goloka, which is above and non-different from this earthly Gokul. All these considerations explain why Sri Bhagavan told Uddhav, "Those fortunate gopis were unable to join me on the night of the Ras Dance, even though they were in Vraj, but they attained me by thinking about my splendid pastimes." The Ras love dance mentioned to Uddhav in 10:47:37 took place on the same day as the play-filled Ras Leela described in this 29th chapter. Sri Krishna plays as a cowherd boy eternally in his pastimes in the spiritual sky, Aprakat Leela. So it is possible that the Ras dance could have taken place there some other day also. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-37 confirms that this happened on the same night. Nasuyan kalu Krishnaya. The Gopis' so-called husbands did not blame Krishna for any improper conduct. This shows that the husbands were not disturbed by their wives giving up their bodies, because Bhagavan's Yogamaya made those bodies vanish and manifested duplicate forms to take their place. The Nitya Siddha beloveds who joined Krishna in the Ras dance had no idea about this secret. They did not know about Bhagavan performing this Ras Leela with the Sadhan Siddha Gopis until he sent his message with Uddhav to Vraj. Actually, the Nitya Siddha Gopis could not understand Shri Krishna's supernatural powers. How amazing it is that these gopis were still able to attain Krishna even though their husbands stopped them from following the sounds of the flutes to reach him. The reason is this. Krishna came to those gopis who were locked inside their houses and met with them in their private quarters. This is disclosed in the verse beginning with Antar Griha Gataha. Their inauspicious separation was removed by the excruciating burning they underwent and by Sri Krishna's mercy. Not only their inauspiciousness was eliminated, but through the gopis, the inauspiciousness of the whole world was also destroyed. Sri Bhagavan has confirmed this in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14-24. By the power of my bhakti yoga, the devotee purifies not only himself, but the whole world also. When the Gopis received such complete happiness from his embrace, their auspiciousness escalated, and this nourished the rest of the world as well. As mentioned before, the phrase gunamaya here means full absorption in a mood of separation. The description of the creation in the third canto relates that Brahma also gave up his body when he became completely absorbed and changed his mood. The rest of the meaning is according to Śrīdhara Swami's explanation, antar griha gataha, remaining inside their houses. Without being seen by anyone, Kṛṣṇa manifested in their houses and met with them there. All their bondage was thus cut at that moment. In this way, it was only that night that those gopis were not able to join the Ras Dance, Alabdha Rasa, at Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-37. This is the understanding. The meaning is that by the power of Sri Krishna's mercy, the gopis who were confined in their houses gave up their subtle material bodies in their meditation and met with him in their fully transcendental bodies. Kṛṣṇa met with these gopis in their homes, and he dispelled all inauspiciousness that had made them suffer in separation. Alabdha Rasa means that it was only on this particular night that these gopis could not directly go to the Ras Mandal in the Prakat Lila. Okay, so it was only that night. It wasn't that they were never able to go. Just checking the comments. Okay. Srila Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura's Sarartha Darshini. Here, Sri Shukadev Gosvāmī is presenting two ways of understanding the verse starting with dusaha. For materialistic persons, he is only giving an external meaning, which hides the real object of the gopis' attainment. Whereas for intimate devotees who are well versed in Siddhanta, he is revealing the deep internal purport, which is dear to his heart. First, for the materialists, he says, Sri Kṛṣṇa gave liberation to the gopis. In other words, the gopis' inauspiciousness was cleansed by the intense heat produced from intolerable separation, and the bliss they received from Achyuta's embrace and their meditation severed all their piety. When all their prarabdha ties were cut, the gopis attained Paramatma in a paramour mood, and they gave up all their remaining subtle material attachments, guna maya deha. So that's the meaning for materialists. He's explaining like that. But now for the internal devotees, Sri Shukadev says that the gopis were suffering in the blazing fire of separation from Sri Kṛṣṇa, but when they went into deep trance, they attained unlimited happiness by meeting with him, and all their desires were fulfilled. Their terrible separation caused such intense heat that all types of inauspiciousness were shaken to the core. This includes the heat generated in millions of universes from underwater fires in the oceans, Mahakalakut poison produced from the churning of the milk ocean, and any other dangerous occurrence that causes sudden death. All of these things, the heat generated in millions of universes from underwater fires in the oceans, the Mahakalakut poison in the milk ocean, all these things that cause sudden death, all of these gave up their pride and shivered in defeat upon witnessing the gopis' agony. That is so dramatic. You can't get more dramatic than that. In their trance, the gopis met with Achyuta in transcendental bodies full of prem, in accord with their desires and natural sentiments. The joy they experienced from his embrace annihilated all their mundane and supermundane good fortune, all their mangal. That's interesting. Even their super mundane good fortune. The happiness that the gopis enjoyed from Krishna's embrace and their meditation reduced to insignificance all the material happiness contained in millions and millions of universes, as well as the spiritual joy experienced by thousands who have realized the impersonal Brahma. Some might think that the gopis' agony and separation and their happiness in union with Bhagavan were the reactions to their previous sin and piety, because sinful and pious reactions prarabdha karma are only wiped out by suffering and enjoying them. Vaishnavas, however, do not accept this view. Misery felt in separation from Bhagavan is not the reaction of sin, and the bliss enjoyed in meeting with him is not the fruit of piety. But the sadhaka in the stage of anartha nivritti, who is still undergoing the reactions to his previous activities, is able to destroy his prarabdha karma by worshipping Krishna. This is the rational conclusion. Paramatma Sri Krishna possesses the most sublime level of love. The Gopis met that Paramatma in their meditation and the disrespectable paramour relationship. In contrast, Rukmini and the other queens enjoyed being Krishna's respectable wives, seeing him as the topmost husband that anyone could attain. The Gopis, however, realized him in a much more intimate way, because the unrestrained love and the paramour mood reaches the highest peak. The noble devotee Sri Uddhav Mahashaya loudly sings the great glories of the Gopis. Yadustyajam sajanam aryam patam chahitva. To worship the lotus feet of Sri Govinda, the Vraj Gopis gave up their husbands, family members, and Vedic morality, which are very difficult to renounce. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-61. The Gopis could do this because their love for Sri Krishna was so strong. The Shrutis present the same opinion, and they are still striving to attain that love-filled form of Krishna, which is the supreme goal. Especially in Sri Krishna's manifest Leela on earth, it is seen that an act regarded as deplorable by material calculation is acknowledged as very elevated and respectable. Grandfather Bhishma says in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.9.39, that Sri Krishna who bestows Sarupya Mukti is now looking beautiful as Arjuna's chariot driver, holding a whip and protecting the chariot. This statement proves that Krishna's pastime as Partha Sarathi, the chariot driver, is superior to his activities as an emperor. Similarly, in the material realm, extramarital affairs, Shringaras, are considered debased. But in the Prakat Lila, they become more exalted than the ordinarily higher Shantaras. Shantaras, right? It's Shantaras. Because we observe that in the Vraj pastimes, paramour love excels marital love. We also see clearly in this manifest Leela that insignificant items like a gunjamala, red chalk, gairak dhatu, and peacock feathers are more precious than expensive ornaments made from jewels and pearls. Here, the word sangata, attaining his direct association, indicates that Yogamaya helped some gopis to escape from the bondage of their husbands and fathers, so that they could meet with Ras Bihari Shri Krishna on that night of the Ras Leela. Others joined him on subsequent nights. One might question, how is it appropriate for Sri Bhagavan to perform amorous pastimes like the Ras Dance with gopis who have been enjoyed by another man? The answer is Jahur Guna Mayang Deham. Those gopis gave up their materially tinged subtle body. Here, Deha is used in the singular to indicate that they are all of one type. Some say that Yogamaya made those bodies disappear without anyone noticing and replaced them with another body. Others say that the bodies given up were contaminated by the three modes of nature. Even if we do not accept that those bodies were material, they are still to be understood as perishable. Why is the phrase gunamaya used so often? The point can be settled thus. Before the gopis heard the sound of the flute, their bodies were divided into two parts, gunamaya and chinmaya, material and transcendental. So gunamaya means of the modes and chinmaya means of transcendence. The bodies that the gopis gave up were the ones that had been enjoyed by their husbands. Otherwise, if we accept gunamaya deha to mean their own bodies, this phrase would contradict the subject. In this regard, we should consider the following point. In the beginning of one's devotional practice, following the instruction of Guru, the devotee uses his ears and other external senses for hearing, performing kirtan, remembering, bowing down, and serving the deities. As he advances in senses, pure bhakti begins to pervade the functioning of his senses. Nirguno mad apashraya. A surrendered person becomes transcendental. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 11:25-26. According to these words of Bhagavan, the devotees rise above the material modes when they accept the Lord's qualities through their senses by hearing, chanting, etc. And yet, they still remain in the three modes of nature when they accept mundane sounds and other sense objects. In this way, the devotees have two aspects, material and spiritual. In this connection, Srimad Bhagavatam 11:2-42 says, Bhakti pareshanu bhava viraktir. One second. I'm just seeing okay, never mind. With each successive mouthful of food, one becomes satisfied, nourished, and relieved of hunger accordingly. Similarly, as surrendered devotees engage in the limbs of devotion, Prem Bhakti, the manifestation of Bhagavan's love-filled form, and renunciation of material enjoyments arise simultaneously. According to this logic, the material body is reduced as bhakti increases, and when prema emerges, the material aspect of the body is completely destroyed, giving rise to the transcendental body. Thus, just as Sri Bhagavan displayed the destruction of the Yadav's material bodies in the Moshala Lila, he similarly showed illusory energy the demise of the Gopis' gross bodies in order to delude the atheists and to protect the confidentiality of Bhakti Yoga. To establish the superiority of Bhakti Yoga, sometimes the devotee goes to the spiritual realm in their same gross body, as in the case with Dhruva Maharaj. Evidence for this is found in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:25-32. Ye neme nirjita somya guna jivena chittaja. Hey Somya, O gentle dove, one who practices Bhakti Yoga with complete faith conquers all the material modes arising, and that pure devotee can attain me in dasya, sakhya, or one of the other relationships. This shows that the performance of Bhakti Yoga, which is beyond all material qualities, defeats the material modes. Dutashubha, the intense, intolerable fire which arose from separation from their loved one, this fire removed the Gopis' inauspiciousness. In other words, the material aspect of their bodies was purified in a special way, and in their meditation they attained Shri Achyuta's embrace. Thus their auspiciousness, their mangala increased, which means that their bodies became fully spiritual. This makes proper sense. Prakṣṇa bandhana. By receiving the favor of Yogamaya, they were liberated from the bonds of ignorance and from the obstacles presented by their husbands. However, it is wrong to say that they died, because Kṛṣṇa himself says in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-37, Ya maya kritita ratriam vanesmin vraja astita alabdha rāsa-pañcādhyāyī mapur mad viryachintaya. All those fortunate gopis who were stopped by their husbands were not able to join me on the night of the Ras Dance. By thinking of my heroic activities, they attained me right in their own houses. Bhagavan has used the word kalyani to show that those gopis who were checked by their husbands burned in the conflagration of separation and desired to give up their bodies. But at the beginning of the supremely auspicious Ras festival, I did not agree to their dying, which would have been inauspicious. Consequently, no death took place. Rather, these gopis became greatly fortunate. Yeah, because when I was reading the other translation, before I read the purport, I was wondering, did the gopis actually die? Did they give up their bodies? And yeah, it doesn't actually mean it. Ta uchur udavam pritas tat sandesha gata smritihi. Shri Shukadev said, when those gopis heard their beloved's message from Sri Uddhav's mouth, their previous memories were awakened. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-38. Here the word tha refers to those gopis who were locked in their houses by their husbands and thus prevented from joining the ras. Hence, they actually did not die. Only their subtle material body was removed. This is the understanding. They gave up their residual material attachments by burning in the intense fire of separation from Sri Kṛṣṇa and attained pure spiritual bodies, like Dhruva and others. In this context, deha tyag means giving up the body and receiving a spiritual body. The phrases alabdha vinirgama, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:29-9, and vraja astita, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-37, have the same meaning. They remained in their houses. The phrases dhyana prapta chuta shlesha in verse 10 in this chapter and mapur mad virya chintaya 10:47-37 also have the same meaning. They attained his embrace in their trance. Sangata, that's 10:29-11, means they attained Sri Kṛṣṇa, and alabdha rasa 10:47-37 means they did not join the Ras Dance. These references indicate that there were two types of gopis who were restricted in their houses. When the gardener sees that 7 or 8 mangoes on a tree are nearly ripe, he concludes that all the fruits on that tree are ready. He picks all of them and brings them home. In time, by the rays of the sun and other stimulants, the mangoes take on a beautiful color, exude a sweet fragrance, and become tender with juice. Then they are suitable for the king's enjoyment. As the fruits mature, the king's prudent servants will select the ripest and present. The king's prudent servant will select the ripest and present to the king for his pleasure. Some mangoes may be ripe inside, but are not suitable for tasting as they are still unripe outside, not having any color or fragrance. Knowing this, the gardener allows them to ripen in the heat of the sun or by some other means, and after a few days, they are also ready to offer. Similarly, in Gokul, some of the Munichari Gopis took birth with completely pure transcendental bodies and were not touched by any man. Therefore, Yogamaya helped them, and they went for Abhisar to meet with Sri Kṛṣṇa along with the Nityasiddha Gopis. On the other hand, those Munichari Gopis who externally maintained some attachments to the material modes were placed by Yogamaya in the intense fire of separation, which removed their remaining attachments and eradicated their blemish of having been touched by another man. Thus, by Yogamaya arrangement, they received their pure spiritual bodies with which they were able to meet Kṛṣṇa towards the end of that night of the Ras Lila. Some gopis had a slight touch of impurity, which was eventually burnt up in the fire of separation. Yogamaya arranged for them to meet with Sri Kṛṣṇa some other night. After this, the Sadhan Siddha Gopis who enjoyed the Ras pastimes returned to their husbands' houses, just as the Nitya Siddha Gopis did. From that time on, Yogamaya protected them from being touched by their husbands, and they no longer had any sense of belonging to their husbands, sons, and the rest of the family. Since they were completely overwhelmed by Krishna Prem, their breast milk dried up, and they were unable to nourish their babies. Their family members, thinking them to be mad or under the influence of a dark planet, remained silent. This is the faultless conclusion, leaving no loose ends to be reconciled. Some persons say that the gopis were locked in their houses some people say that the gopis who were locked in their houses did not have any children. The use of the word apatya, children, in later verses indicates that the sons of a co-wife, an adopted child, or the sons of a brother or other family member. All right, that's our reading for today. And tomorrow we will read verse 12. Shri Parikshit Uvacha. Shri Parikshit Maharaj asked, "O great sage, the Vrajramanis knew Shri Krishna only as their beloved. They never saw him as a supreme spirit. As their hearts were ever attached to Shri Krishna's qualities, how were they able to become detached from the influence of the three modes of material nature?" And so we'll see that actually Parikshit Maharaj only asked this question for the sake of other people who were in the audience. And in the next verse, what is it? Shukadev Goswami will chastise it and say, "I already explained this killing of Putana," right? I think that's what I remember. All right. That's our reading for today. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. I'm just thinking about the purport of Srila Jīva Gosvāmī. He gave so much emphasis on how no, paramour relationship isn't a good thing. And he was comparing it to Putana, and, she came with a bad intention to kill Krishna. And he just spent a lot more time than Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura on being really careful, to not misunderstand this Parakya Bhav. And I'm just remembering, this is just my own speculation, but Srila Jīva Gosvāmī, he was also under a lot of pressure during that time, because there's, I think it's in the Sandarbhas, he writes a whole long thing on Swakiyavad, and he seems like he's in favor of Swakiyavad, like that he's promoting Swakiyavad instead of Parakiyavad. But then at the end of that whole long explanation, it's like pages and pages long. At the end, he says that he wrote this because some people were urging him to do so, but this isn't actually his own opinion. He wrote something like that. So I'm just thinking, during that time, that's why Srila Jīva Gosvāmī had to give so much emphasis for people to not misunderstand. Just some thought. Because Srila Viśvanātha Cakravartī Thakura's purport, he didn't get that deep into it like Jīva Gosvāmī did, and he wasn't anyways. Oh, Hari Bol, Krishna Prem and Manjari. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shri Gurudev Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shata Shishmar Shri Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Oh, that was from Gopal Champu also. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Maha Bhagavat Srila Gorksharas Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki Jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannathas Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Pata Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shara Goswami Prabhu ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki Jai. Nama Chai Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shikshetra Mandala, Gora Mandala, Vraja Mandala, Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Sarva Abhishya Bhadata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki jai, Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki jai, Grantaraj Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Sarva Vraja Devi Gan ki jai, Shri Raseshwari Shri Vishvananandini Shrimati Radha Ṭhākurani ki jai, Shri Śrīla Śrīdhara Svāmī Par ki jai, Śrīla Jīva Gosvāmī Par ki jai, Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura Par ki jai, Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Sattvatai Namo Namo Vancha Kalpatarubhyashta Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams, everybody. Kartik begins in 26 days from now. Indira Akadashi is in 8 days from now. Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj's appearance date is in 16 days from now. I'll give that little, I have a counter on my, I'll do that every day. Just give a little counter so that we all know what's coming up. All right, see you all tomorrow. Hari Bol.